All right, welcome to the Solutions 8 YouTube channel. I'm here with my business partner, chief strategist, and basically soulmate, John Rand. John, thanks for being here.
It is funny because I kind of feel like Pinky in the Brain. Like I'm kind of like the short one, but like bald. And
I don't know enough about Animaniacs to be offended, but I think I know that I'm not the brain.
all of our millennials out there, you'll get what we're talking about.
This is where we take over the world, right? What are we doing today?
Yeah.
That's so funny. Well, actually, on that note, what are we talking about today?
Trying to take over the world. No, we're talking about local campaigns. And actually, what's funny is it's not really a local campaign. It's a campaign for a localized business, brick and mortar. And there are local campaigns. I don't like local campaigns as much as a really good structured Google Ads account. Local campaigns kind of feel like cheating because there's really not a lot of control. You don't have control over any of the keywords. You don't have control over any of the ad schedule, like nothing like that. So what we usually get questions on though is saying, hey, I have a brick and mortar store. I have a brick and mortar location. I'm not selling physical products online, but I might have my store, or I might have a service-based company. What's the best way to set those up? So we had a few of those at our 3X Shopify last week, and so I think that this is a good topic to discuss.
That's great, and we actually get a lot of requests from our YouTube commenters. So if you've requested this is for you, coming at you. Let's dive right into it.
All right, let's do it. So I have an account pulled up here. We're going to blur out the name of the top left, but this is actually Tire and Service Center. So this one is a brick and mortar location. Now we are tracking conversions, but there's a conversion that is not available to everyone until you link up your Google My Business account to Google Ads and you start to drive a lot of traffic to your website, to your Google My Business location. And that one is, wait for it, because it is amazing, store visits. So this is actually measuring the physical person showing up at the location. Now, this isn't a conversion action that is available to everyone right off the bat. And that's where I think a lot of people get discouraged on running these localized campaigns, is because the store visit, you'll see the source is store visits and the category store visit. Like, this is not something that we put together. This was actually placed here by Google. And so the cool
pause you there, John, just to make sure I understand.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to build that conversion action, when you go to conversions, will you go back to that setting?
Mm-hmm.
You can't say plus and go build store visits. As soon as you connect GMB, it automatically shows up in the dashboard.
Well, not necessarily. When you connect GMB and you start running ads, eventually it will show up in your dashboard.
Wow. Now, so you can't even like catalyze the process. You're at the mercy of Google saying, okay, now, go ahead and give it to them.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing too, that it's not something that you can just build or request or have it. You need to link up Google My Business. You have to drive traffic to your website in a very localized fashion. And then when people start to actually engage with your Google My Business and they can see the people going to the location and like stopping there and being there for an X amount of time, then Google says, well, we can track this.
So this number has to be diluted. They're not catching everybody that's visiting the store, obviously, but they're catching people that visit the store using the GMB functions like, get directions or whatever.
Yeah, and actually, if you're using Chrome or if you're using Google Maps, and you're physically going to the location and stopping there, Google can see that because you're using the Chrome browser or Google phone, wherever it may be. And then the other thing too that's interesting is this is something very important. You want to count this one time. You don't want to count every time someone visits the store, unless that's important to you.
Yeah, if it's an ice cream shop, you want to count it every time. But a tire store is probably just the one time because now they're coming back to pick up their car. How much flexibility do we have in this conversion action? Can you edit all the same things you can edit with other using the GMB functions like, get directions or whatever?
Yeah, and actually, if you're using Chrome or if you're using Google Maps, and you're physically going to the location and stopping there, Google can see that because you're using the Chrome browser or Google phone, wherever it may be. And then the other thing too that's interesting is this is something very important. You want to count this one time. You don't want to count every time someone visits the store, unless that's important to you.
Yeah, if it's an ice cream shop, you want to count it every time. But a tire store is probably just the one time because now they're coming back to pick up their car. How much flexibility do we have with this conversion action? Do you have this, can you edit all the same things you can edit with other?
Yeah, so you can edit this one is going to be important: view through conversion window, click through conversion window, count.
View through became more applicable here than maybe any other conversion action. They saw your ad, they went to the store.
Right. And that's actually what's in, well, Google are in their infinite wisdom. Here's the issue is in settings, there's this area here, view through conversions, include view through conversions from display network and video ads in your all conversion column. So view through conversions now show up in your all conversions tab and not just your conversions. So if you had a view through conversion, this would be, say, all zeros, because view through conversions are just terrible at tracking the actual view through conversion. This is a display campaign, and you can see it says 0, but we had seven local actions directions. So Google just does not do a really good job at capturing view through conversions. There's one thing that we don't track too much, just because, especially if you're running omni-channel type of campaigns, like, did they see your ad on remarketing, but they clicked and visited from Facebook? And view through's like, oh yeah, they saw my ad too. It's almost like over reporting. So we usually don't rely on it too much, but it does show up here in your all conversions tab if you did track view through conversions for a long period of time, like 30 days or whatever.
Sure. And I noticed your attribution setting was set to last click. Explain just the logic behind that.
Yeah, so since we are running a branded campaign, what I usually like to look at is where that conversion path go. So it's interesting. A lot of times we will run first click when we do have like a brand campaign. If you wanted to run first click only, that's kind of preferable. With this client specifically, we were running last click because they actually wanted to put more emphasis on their brand. Not necessarily our, I would say, agreement. We're kind of just abiding by that request. But their brand is actually something that's really important. You can see that the brand has spent $782 in the last 30 days.
Yeah, it's a significant percentage of their budget for sure.
It's big, yeah. So they don't really mind where the conversion actions come from. If we were spending very little on brand, I do first click, but since it is a local campaign, brand awareness is something that they really, really, really wanted. So they actually count branded conversions as important as inbound. But here's what's kind of cool about running the localized campaigns is with store visits. This is something that you're going to kind of double up on though. Imagine if I had a click to call and then someone clicked the driving directions and then had a store visit. This might share a conversion. So what we did is we ended up not actually including the store visits in the normal conversion tab. So what you'll see here is the conversions will see 00, 35 request to quote, 9 appointments, and then 0 store visits in the conversions. But the all conversion tab, we can see that.
How did you exclude that? Where's the setting to do that?
It's right actually in the conversion area, which is going to tools and conversions and then going to the store visits. And then in here it says including conversions. We just uncheck this so that it says no.
Yeah, and I just want to pause here briefly for folks that don't know, your conversions, the including conversions tab is, I think, one of the most dangerous facets of conversion tracking, because if you're reporting false positives, you're going to send the machine learning off, like going and get you a bunch of crap that you don't want or can't control, which is why I wanted people to know where to go to modify this. Yeah, and it kind of makes you a dishonest marketer if you count everything. Like, how many evaluations, dude, have we done where people think they have conversions and we hop in there and it's like, that's a page view. Yeah, they're like, I'm getting 1,000 ROAS. Like, they're counting it 3 times. Right. Oh, right. And there's so many, not only tracking improper conversions, but more than once, and then including that in your conversion tab. But the reason why we did not include it, and one thing I would actually recommend not doing is including that store visit in your conversion tab, unless that's what you're tracking. Like if you don't want to track phone calls, you have no contact us on your website, you have no appointment scheduling tool on your website, and you just need store visit, then you absolutely count that inside of your conversions. But what I look at here is I'm counting the request to quote and appointment. The clicks to call, they're great, if they call, but I can't tell you if anything good happened. Local actions, directions, again, good to know, but I can't actually tell you if they followed the map and actually went there. They just looked at possibly how far away it was. Store visit, these are good, but if I included 50 in that 45 here, I'd have essentially double the amount of conversions.
And with double the amount of conversions, my, let's see here, my, I don't have that column. Let me add that column real quick. My conversion rate would, double to 10. And then my cost per conversion would go down to $12. Now,
if we wanted to lie to this client, if we were nefarious marketers, we would lob that right into conversions and be like, look what we did.
10% conversion rate and $12 conversions. Now, are the people that requested a quote also showing up? Probably.
That's so funny. Dude, what a good point. So somebody filled out the form, came to the store, and this is a way that you could double count conversions. And if I were the client and I didn't know how Google Ad works, that's hard to challenge. So a couple of notes here. If you're a client and not an agency, you got to dig deep, especially with the conversions that are being tracked. Maybe that might be the very first thing I'd want to look at. What conversions are you tracking? Explain each one to me. And then if you're an agency, don't use vanity data. Don't lie.
Yeah.
You're just hold yourself accountable to reporting on the truth. And if you lose the client and you're reporting on the truth, that's the best thing that could have happened to you. Because they're going to feel it one way or the other. They just might not know exactly where it's coming from. Sorry to soapbox, dude. That's just...
No, I mean, that's exactly what we did. I mean, I'm showing 45 conversions, not 218 by choice. Like they were purposely not showing 217. And what's interesting though too is these are costs of new acquisition of a new customer. Most people are going to request a quote or request an appointment. They're probably, very rarely would they ever do both. And I know that it costs me $25 to acquire a new customer. And I have a 5% conversion rate. That's very, very good for an inbound campaign, not even the brand. It's funny, the brand is actually more expensive. Go figure. But what's interesting about this is where you can really start to dig really deep in your conversion tracking, like you said, and get a good metric that you can scale by. It's hard to, like we always say, if you're wrong with your metrics, when you scale, you're just wrong faster. Like that's all that happens. And so that's what's interesting. If I included all 217 in here, my cost per conversion would be $5 and my conversion rate would be 20%, but we'd be dishonest marketers. So when you're running localized campaigns, think about real life, I guess is the stupidest way I can dumb it down though, is think about real life. If someone's going to call and, say, hey, are you open today? Yeah. Okay, great. I'll be right there. Do you count that twice? No, you wouldn't count it twice. So that's the thing is whatever you would count in real life, measure your metrics against that. But I think that this store visit is it's a big game changer in Google. Every brick and mortar location just became much more viable in the paid ad ecosystem. If you're not physically selling something on your website or you're just tracking one thing and you're running a Google My Business, you're going to have a ton of traffic here that you're just going to be missing out unless you're doing this.
That's huge. Well, you remember the little white, I think it was called the Beacon. Do you remember Google's Beacon? It was this little white device that they sent us and they were going to test. Did that ever go anywhere?
I don't know. Trying to remember. I don't think
it's like NFC powered or RFID or something. And you're supposed to put it in your brick and mortar location. And then Google was going to use it, I guess, to like ping off smartphones.
What I wonder if they did is if they use those to test against, like that's the control, and then the other ones are variable, like how many people visited there and did the beacon catch it versus how many people visit this one without a beacon, and what's the delta between the two?
That was my question. I was like, why do you need this? You're in everybody's pocket already.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's weird too, is all of a sudden they just stopped showing up. Very strange. Like they were sending them out, and then a lot of our clients that I talked to, I'm like, did you have the beacon? They're like, how? I'm like, it's like a little white baton, small handheld baton that Google said to you. No, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't believe this client has it either.
I'm gonna go to school on it and see what happened.
Yeah.
And maybe they just discontinue. I mean, they experimented with a lot of stuff. They just pull the plugs.
Yeah, right. Some campaigns I'd recommend, brick and mortar. Obviously, your inbound keywords for search. Whatever search terms that you would think are viable for your business. Absolutely run that. Branded, it is a great idea to run branded because especially if you're going after a small geographical area, you want that map placement to be high with ads. You want your brand name to be showing high in the SERPs, running brand. The other one I always recommend for localized business is dynamic search. We have a dynamic search ad for obviously this company here, which is a service-based business, but we also have a dynamic search ad for another local food company in Canada. and it gets 700-800% return on ad spend. I think DSA is highly overlooked for localized campaigns because you'll have a lot of different people in a very small geographical radius that are looking for a lot of variations of what you have to offer. And if you're not running this, you're missing out on traffic that's right down the street from you. And so dynamic search is a great way to cover your bases of everything that you possibly could have missed on inbound.
Yeah, it fills in the gaps. We run dynamic search for all of our Montessori schools, which is what, 30 or 40 clients. And it's the highest performer, I think, for every school outside of maybe their brand campaigns.
Yeah. And what's interesting is we spent $719, had 76 store visits, compared to the 1,100 and had 50.
Wow.
So our store visits are actually cheaper in DSA. And that's one of the things that it's really, it's a great, we don't have as many conversions, but we have a lot more store visits. And dynamic search is very good for if they're going to be searching for something and you keep popping up on the map, might be driving to you. So it's like, oh, this place looks like they have it. I type this in, they pull up on the map and it's, 0.5 miles away from me. And so they just drive. So there's a big, think of it like your SEO, and like that's how it's going to work. Everything that you possibly show up for in SEO, if you were ranking number 1 on the maps, it's a great idea. But
dude, that's really funny. Dynamic search ads is just paid SEO.
That's all it is. Paid SEO.
I mean, I know PPC is kind of paid SEO, but you're cherry picking your phrases. Dynamic search ads, it leaves it up to Google to crawl your site, figure out what you're relevant for, and then deliver to the customer.
Yeah. Yep. And then also, here's something else that I think is really okay, we're gonna have to blur this out because it's a name. But
hold on, let me get ready to take my notes here.
All right, in the extensions, this is something that's coming to all Google Ads accounts, and we're just gonna have to put a big blur over here. But this is leave this one unblurred if we can. And I apologize for everyone watching this that it's not really like amazing, but there's image extensions. Those image extensions are going to be something that is important for localized campaigns. Imagine if you have someone that's right down the street searching exactly what you have to offer, and you can show up number 1 in the search ads with a picture. You're gonna win.
Oh,
you're gonna get the business.
Well, dude, you could be real creative with that picture too. This is maybe I'm going a little too far, getting too tangential, but like where I live, there's this big blue tower that's iconic for North Scottsdale. It's on the corner of Franklin Wright and Scottsdale Road. And if you know that big blue tower, like there's this neural association where like, I know exactly where that is. So if you have something that's pseudo iconic for you, geographically speaking, and you can include that image and like maybe even contextualize it for your business, I think that's a way to connect people to, especially for local businesses, what we're talking about. You want to connect them, like McDowell Mountains are right behind us. If you see pictures of McDowell Mountains, if you're in Albuquerque and you're like by the tram or whatever, like if you can connect somebody instantly to where you are, I think that's huge.
If you're in Tennessee, it's like by the oak tree, it's whatever you want. By the big red barn. Sorry for everyone in Tennessee. I actually like that place. It's just fun.
That's so funny. We're gonna get hate mail now.
I watch it. Also, make sure that your campaigns are local to your geography. This client actually has a few locations, so that's why these look kind of spread out. But just don't run statewide. I guess that would just be, here's a good way to think about this is be wide enough reaching that you can trust with a high degree of certainty that people are going to show up, but not too far that you're going to get the conversion, but they won't actually show up.
Yeah.
And that's what's really important with localized campaigns is if I'm 10 miles too far in my radius, someone's going to search something, they're going to see it, they're going to call me, and then they're going to say, oh, where's this place? 37 minutes. Well, there's one 5 minutes up the street from me. They didn't pay any money out of pocket. They requested maybe an appointment, but they're not losing anything by going 5 minutes up the street closer to them.
Right.
So
it depends on the business. Like, if you're a car wash, nobody's going to travel 40 minutes for a car wash. But if you're like a plastic surgeon, you know what I mean? It's like, I'll save $2,000 by going to this dude. I'm going to, or, a better, what was it? My son was in something for school and we needed to get a costume that nobody had. There's this costume store in downtown Phoenix. And it was, a 25-minute drive for me, but they're the only ones. So if you're super unique or people are going to travel to you, you get to be a little bit more expansive.
Mm-hmm. And if you wanted to, you can actually use use UTM and G-Clip parameters, and you can actually have different campaigns running in different areas And if you are concerned about it, let's say you're running one campaign in 10-mile radius, another campaign is a 15-mile radius with a 10-mile radius excluded. Then the other one might be a 20-mile radius with a 15 and 10-mile radius excluded. And using UTM parameters and saying, 5 mile, 10 mile, 15 mile in your campaign name, if you actually look at the UTM parameters that are inbound and coming into your possibly CRM tool, scheduling tool, whatever it may be, if you can track those UTM parameters and look to see how many leads came from X amount of miles away that didn't show up for their appointment. And if you needed to test this one in real time, you can actually do that just by making sure that your radius targeting is broken out differently by campaign. And this way, if you say, well, I think I might be too far out, I'm getting a bunch of calls, but business is going down. My phones are ringing, but business is going down. Why? That's a way to diagnose that issue, to say, well, the people that are coming from this city or this town or this 18 miles away from us, they call a bunch, but then they never show up. So, it's a quick way to diagnose it.
I just made you stop sharing your screen because what you just said blew my mind. If you're watching this video, y'all, that was like, and this is why John is who John is. I mean, there's like fire pro tips. Like that was next level thinking using UTM and G-clutter parameters. But then the nice thing about that is you just humanize the data analysis. You're like, all right, let's make this 5, 10, 15 miles or whatever it is, whatever the delineation ends up being. And then dropping that into the CRM and then giving the opportunity to say like, okay, all the leads that are converting are X. Or you could even you could analyze it monetarily. Like, okay, $150,000 worth of my gross revenue this month came from 5 miles and so on and so forth. And then you can look at the spend on a per distance. I know I'm explaining this to you. You just explained it to me, but I'm hashing it for people that, aren't as smart as you and need to work through this. Y'all, that I almost don't want to share that. That's so good. Dude, that's so good.
Yeah. I mean, you can monitor your spend, by location. Maybe let's say like the people that have 18 miles away from you are only coming in half the time. Well, spend a quarter of the money on that campaign.
Yeah, so that's what's really cool too. Is you're exactly right. You take your income to expense ratio and then you just flip it. It's like I'm going to spend the most where I make the most and spend the least where. This is another piece that you already have a video on, and you can start sharing again if you want to. You have to use a CRM. You have to. If you're not tracking where people are coming up from, what's happening with them, lead quality, all that stuff, it's such a disadvantage. Mm-hmm. Go use a CRM, and they're like HubSpot is free, they're cheap, $50 a month. If it earns you one extra client a year, it just paid for itself.
If you don't have a CRM tool, use a form builder that can at least email it to you.
There you go.
Gravity Forms, as an example. Gravity Forms.
Stack, Jot Forms. Yeah. I mean, is there a form builder that can't capture UTM parameters now?
Yeah, I think Ninja Forms, you have to pay like an extra $30 for a bolt-on. But for our newbies here that don't understand what we're talking about possibly, Gravity Forms, what's nice about that is, let's say you add a hidden field and you're passing UTM parameters and it just gets emailed to you. And let's say you're a hairstylist. Okay, maybe you don't have a CRM tool, but you have a seat and you're renting it from a location, because that's how sometimes hairstylists work, is you just rent the seat and that's kind of like your chair. And even if you just get emailed the UTM parameters and you're like trying to gauge where my customer is going to come from, that one you can even see like who showed up today. Oh, this person did, that filled out this form, and what area did they come from. I mean, you can start really basic. You don't have to have a CRM tool if you're just getting into this, but you can, without question, you can 2x the efficiency at least with UTM parameters. What keyword converts but doesn't show up, or what location converts but doesn't show up. I mean, it can save you half your spend. It's not a small thing to overlook. It's huge.
You get twice as efficient with half as much money. That's a 400% spread basically.
Right. It compounds. It's the 1 + 1 = 3. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Let's kind of recap. For localized campaigns, use Google My Business.
Can you show where the Google My Business connection? I mean, y'all, it's like what, 3 clicks? Like, it's not hard. First of all, you have to go get a Google My Business profile, which actually is hard because they send you a freaking postcard, which is so funny to me.
Yeah, so it's just an adds and extensions. Click on the extensions. We're gonna have to blur most of this out.
All this out.
Yeah, but you have to click on the plus symbol, and then you have location extension here, and inside your location extension, yeah, just blur that out here. But this is basically the area that you're just going to make sure that your username is the same username as one that is attached to your Google My Business. And then when you link it here, it's just going to basically have you kind of like a pass-through authentication. You're just going to sign in with this and say, hey, here's all your locations. Which one do you want to use? And select a location or locations that work for you. And then make sure you have that as just an ad running for all of your campaigns. It's not difficult at all. Location extensions are gold for it's so much so that if you don't have a Google My Business, I wouldn't run any ads for brick and mortar store. Period.
Wow.
It's that important. Yeah. I mean, it's more important than the best ad copy you could have, because like hopefully they go to my website and hopefully they go to my contact page and then they hopefully see the map in the footer and then they hopefully will show up. It's just, you're just missing so much. So location extensions are that important. So don't run Google ads without a location extension, without a Google My Business profile. That's number one, first and foremost. Run DSA, absolutely. And give it enough time that store visits pops up, and just make sure you're appropriately attributing those store visits to your conversions based on what other conversions you're tracking.
How long in your experience has it taken for store visits to be included once you connect GMB?
It's interesting. One was almost immediately. And I think that actually had to do with the history of the Google My Business profile. I don't think that was the history of Google.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one had 15 locations and it was fast. The other one,
the shoe place.
No, this is the tire store.
Oh, okay.
The other one though, the jewelry person, that one, how long was he running? I think 11 years. And it just came about recently, so it's not even something that.
Yeah, but he's cursed, dude. There's something wrong. Like the gods of Google hate him.
So my most recent experience is between 1 day and 11 years.
That's so funny. That's about consistent with Google's whole narrative. What about? And I know we're wrapping up here a little bit, but just out of curiosity, because if you talk to a Google consultant today, among the many lies they tell you, if you're in a local business, they're going to want you to run call only ads, and prioritize call extensions.
Oh, you know why?
Because that's how they make the most money the fastest.
$35 per click is the average cost per click for call ads.
Yeah, and they end up being more or less, I don't want to say all of them, but like it's pretty consistent that they're crap leads.
What's so funny though too is they count it not if a phone call takes place. If they click on it and your phone says, would you like to call? And they're like, oh no, that's $35. Wow. You can have 10 clicks and 2 calls. It's possible on a call only ad. And that's what I don't think people get is like, they're like, oh yeah, I only pay if they call. No. You pay if they agree to call after they click. If they expect it just to go to the website because it looks like a text ad, it just has a phone number and the headline. If they think it's going to a website and they don't want to call, that's $35. I can bring you 7 quality visits for that same price.
When would you run call only ads?
Emergencies. So
septic tank flooding, water remediation. Yeah.
We have an emergency clinic it's an animal one in Florida. And I run call only ads at $350 a day, because those will net anywhere between like 1 and 10 grand a surgery.
Wow.
And it's usually when their animal is in like dire need of attention now. It's like, think about it, it's how much would you pay to be like the person on the other end of a 911 call? Like if you can get paid for that call, like that
sounds horrible.
I know, it's terrible, right? Especially 2 in the morning. This is the worst analogy I ever did.
That person. But I know what you're saying.
It's weird.
I've got a buddy, his mother-in-law has this cat, and the cat's got to be like 40 or something. And she keeps spending money to keep this cat alive. And at this point, it's like cruel. You know what I mean? Like she's got to be $100 grand into this zombie cat that, like, I don't know how it's still walking.
The $6 million cat.
Yeah, I'm just like, somebody needs to put that cat out of its misery.
That cat was born with 48 lives. Like it's just.
Yeah, that cat has seen like world wars and.
Yeah, but that's the thing too, is call only ads emergency and when they have enough budget. Like we'll spend 15 grand a month for that animal emergency clinic. Yeah. So that one, yeah. Like if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, I'll pay $40 because they woke up and their dog was, bleeding or something like that we need that call.
Right.
And again, it's Google My Business too as well. Like if you can be the closest animal hospital and you can have a click to call because you know that they need to talk to somebody now, then you run it. Or flood and what was it?
Water
restoration. Yeah.
We got a guy on the hook right now that wants to run water restoration. Average CPC in the Phoenix Metro, which is where he is $180. I think he found us on YouTube, so he might see this. I told Mike to bat him away because his budget's too low. He can't buy 10 clicks. And he's interesting because he's like, no, I know that I can make these work. Curious as to your knee-jerk reaction to that.
How much budget?
$1,500.
And he wants to run call only?
He just wants to run Google Ads, but he wants to run water remediation specifically.
Not any good quality, in my opinion. Here's what would have to happen. You wake up, your couch is floating in your living room.
Yeah.
You pull out your phone, you type in, water damage, emergency plumbing, or water emergency plumbing, or emergency plumbing, and then just skip everyone and go down to the bottom of the page and be like, yes, and then that's the first person you call.
Because we're not going to get to the top of the page, is what you're saying. And if we do bid at the top of the page, we don't have enough at bats to actually get him a customer.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you're watching here, sir, pardon us for making you a case study, but we're approaching your deal with integrity because we don't want to take your money if we can't make it work.
It would work, but you would get probably 2 to 3 quality calls a month.
So, dude, this is what's funny about this guy is he's like, if I close one deal in 90 days, it's worth it to me. And that's where I perked up a little bit. And I was like, all right, Mike, we normally sign month-to-month contracts, but let's make this a 90-day contract and maybe we'll take it.
Yeah. It'll be difficult. It depends on location, depends on how many other people are bidding for that. If it's rural, yeah, we have a much better chance. If it's urban, probably not. Man, that's a tough one. It's a really tough one. If you're running those call only ads, or not call only ads, if you're running those those CPCs are going to be high. And there's only 2 things that matter in Google when you're running inbound search: placement and volume. And low budget, you get enough for one.
Placement, volume. These are critical. Pick one.
Either you can be at the top or you can have more clicks. But yeah. And so, we can test it, but
like being in a plane, it's like, do you want elevation or speed? It's like, I want both.
Right.
But hi, you keep it fast.
Yeah, exactly. We only have time for one. Yeah. So that's the thing. But I guess, everyone here watching, that's the reality of this. But
well, dude, that's something. If you're talking to Google Ads Manager and they're trying to sell you on something, this is a math game, y'all. Like, it's not even, we're better than everybody else for sure. And you know why now, because you're watching the videos and you're seeing the content, but so much of it is just because we have the integrity to say like, oh, that won't work. So many ad managers are like, oh no, I guarantee results, give me the money, just start up, blah, blah, blah. And it's, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too, because they don't really lie. They just don't tell the whole truth.
Well, dude, half of them don't know. I'm convinced half of these aren't even bad people. They just have no idea. They can't do the remedial math necessary to be like $180 a click, $1,000 budget. This doesn't fit into that very well.
Well, what's funny is like a bad salesperson at a different agency would be like, you know what, I can guarantee you top placement.
Right.
At the bottom left-hand side of the screen, it just says 1 click per month. It's like that.
That's what's funny too. Is that sounds really compelling. If you don't know Google Ads, you're like, oh, top placement. They guarantee top placement. Yeah.
Right. So that's the rule of Google. It's like the good, fast, cheap pick 2. Yeah. This is volume or placement. With low budgets, you have to pick one. So if 90 days, if we just need to get one good quality, conversion in 90 days,
get one deal done.
That's absolutely viable.
Right.
If we can get 3 or 4 per month, and after 12, if we can't get,
my problem with that is I actually don't believe the client there. If somebody goes, hey, I can't imagine your card being dinged. Google bills every $500. So your card's gonna be dinged 2-3 times a month, and then I'm gonna ding your card, and you only close one deal 90 days, and you don't have, because even though that pencils out, the math works. There's like a neuroassociative conditioning thing going on there, where it's just like pain, some pleasure, pain. You know what I mean? Like,
the other part too is if you don't get that good quality conversion in that 90-day period.
Yeah.
Let's say you get one the first 90 days, but if you don't the second 90 days,
right,
and then you have to wait for, then you're like, next quarter is my quarter,
Right. Yeah. And then we're always on the chopping block. It reminds me of when we did the real estate investment campaigns. Like, if somebody didn't close a deal that month, then they fired us. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, dude, I can't control the real estate market. You have to stick this out a year, and it's all going to average out,
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting. And if you're watching, we will try if you're interested, but It's a test. That's it. It's a test with a 50-50 shot at those parameters, honestly.
I'm gonna have Mike send him this video, and hopefully we won't piss him off. And
yeah.
But if
but I hope you like the transparency. Yeah, that's tough. That is definitely tough. But that's, it's a good lesson. Google is expensive. Google is an expensive network. Absolutely is. It's the most expensive network.
Right. It's more expensive. Like, how much would you pay to be right in front of a customer that wants to buy now?
Right.
The most. You gotta pay the most.
And it's funny because, like, to Google, $50 a click, it's like, it's Google. What do they care? Right. But if it's so funny because and this isn't a shot against his amount of his budget, but it's interesting the value some people or businesses will place on ad spend from month to month. Like, the truck that you have to go out to the client is $30,000, but you'll spend possibly $1,800 to drive to try to find the client to drive the $30,000 truck to. And I'm not saying this one client, but there's a lot of companies that are like, I put $1 million in this business, but I have $2,000 a month in ad spend. It's like,
yeah, that's a really good point.
So how much would you pay to put yourself in front of a client every day, and how many days do you want to do that?
Dude, I feel that way when they beat me up about my fee. Like, you're more expensive than our agencies. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm better. So you can pay me my fee, and then the $2,000 a month you're spending is worth 10. Like, I just multiplied the amount that you can get on an exponential scale, but they want to, like, save, $200 or whatever.
Yeah, it's almost like
weird. Like, we're selling to people now, basically. It's like, sign up at Solutions 8. We want to run your Google ads.
Well, it's like going in for brain surgery. It's like, you want the 80% chance, 100% chance. 100% chance going to cost more.
You want a discount brain surgeon?
You find those at the bottom of Google.
That's awesome. I didn't go to school, but I watched a lot of them.
It's a BOGO. Got any other family members with brain trauma?
I guarantee one of you survives. Or your money back.
I guarantee your money back because I don't have to pay you if it fails. Oh, man.
Yeah, you don't pay.
We should probably end this video before we catch a YouTube ban.
So if you're still watching, you're either like, you got a great sense of humor and you're our people. I actually kind of question your judgment a little bit. It's obvious no more value's coming.
Or you've reported this video like 6 times and you're just waiting to get it taken down in front of your eyes. Like,
you're just waiting for us to say something that gets us canceled.
Exactly. Okay. That's it. Kill the feed.
Jack, edit out all the things that sound bad.
Yeah, like, you probably cut this video 20 minutes ago. Yep.
Yeah. I will say, though, I know it tapered off there, but you dropped like some epic value bombs in the beginning, so hopefully we don't get thumbs down.
Judge us by the first 10 minutes of this video, please.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Awesome.
Thumb down hurt me. Like, when I see a thumb down on my video, like, it's like
I know which agency that is.
I do too.
Or agencies, I should say. Yep.
Yeah. How's the barbecue down there?
I mean, I'd be upset if other agencies are giving away my trade secrets and, or giving away the trade secrets. I guess I should say. We just like, here's what every agency in the world, including us, will do. Da-da. And then everyone else is like, no, stop doing that. I charge for that.
That's funny. We do an industry specific video every week. Every Tuesday, John and I record this. They go live whenever they go live. I don't know. The team takes care of that. I don't know how that works. Yep. But if you have an industry or a segment that you want us to focus on, let us know. Drop it in the comments. Shoot us an email, smoke signal, however it is that you communicate.
Yep. And
we'll add it to the list. We've got 140 some odd clients, a lot to choose from, and we can give you active examples. We're not going to do any industries we don't actually run because it doesn't make any sense. Like, we're just going to be making things up at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really do anybody any good if we're like, we think this will work.
Yeah. Well, I've asked, like, people have come out and said, hey, can you do residential realtors? And my answer is no, because I don't take those as clients because they're impossible. Although we've got a cat, he's a YouTube subscriber who's cracked the code there. So I'll just refer you over to him.
There you go. Perfect. Yeah. And that's the thing too, is we usually don't take on clients that we can't be really positive it's going to be good for. And I think that there's another reason why we're a little bit more expensive is we probably push away half the clients that come to us because we have a really good shot.
Yeah. So, but if you need somebody to run your Google ads, and you enjoy, I think, very sophisticated humor, then you should head over to Solutions 8.
Absolutely, because if this doesn't end in a few minutes, I'm gonna start making fart noises. So, highbrow stuff.
Highbrow stuff. All right, brother. Thanks for hopping on with me, dude. I'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.